I'm standing in my parents' dining room, turkey getting cold on my plate, watching my sister Deanna clink her champagne glass like she just won the lottery. Mom and Dad are giving me full ownership of Garrett's hardware, she announces, that smug smile plastered across her face. 23 years. That's how long I've been the one showing up at 6 a.m. to unlock those doors. The one who stayed in our dying Ohio town while Deanna chased her marketing dreams in Chicago. The one who learned inventory systems, dealt with contractors, memorized every damn bolt size we carry. And now, she gets it all because she came back for 6 months with a business degree and a PowerPoint presentation. But here's what my parents didn't know that Thanksgiving evening in 2019. Here's what Deanna didn't count on when she made that toast. I'd already found the letters. The real reason she came crawling back to Ashford wasn't to help modernize the family legacy. And by the time I was done, that glass she was holding would shatter in ways she never saw coming. You know what? Family businesses bring out the absolute worst in people, the greed, the lies, the betrayal. If you've ever had someone take credit for your blood, sweat, and tears, hit that like button right now because you already know where this is going. Subscribe and turn on notifications because trust me, what I discovered about my sister makes this Thanksgiving dinner look like a church picnic. Drop a comment telling me if you've ever been screwed over by family. I need to know I'm not alone in this. And tell me where you're watching from because misery loves company. My name is Paige Garrett. I'm 39 years old, and I should have seen it coming. Garrett's Hardware has been on Main Street in Ashford, Ohio since 1967. My grandfather built it from nothing, my father expanded it through the Rust Belt collapse of the 82nds, and I've been working there since I was 16 years old. Not summer jobs, not gaining experience, real work. By 18, I was managing inventory. By 25, I was negotiating with suppliers. By 30, I was essentially running the place while Dad pretended to be in charge, and Mom handled the books. Deanna? She left for Northwestern the second she graduated high school. Couldn't wait to shake the small-town dust off her designer boots. For 15 years, she'd show up maybe twice a year Christmas and the occasional 4th of July barbecue, always with stories about her amazing life in Chicago, her marketing firm, her high-rise apartment. Her sophisticated friends who'd never been to a town where the biggest excitement was the new Arby's opening on Route 33. I never resented her for leaving. Honestly, I didn't. Ashford wasn't for everyone. Population 4,200 and dropping. The steel mill had closed in 2002, taking half the jobs with it. The younger generation scattered to Columbus, Cleveland, anywhere with actual opportunities. But me? I loved that hardware store, loved the smell of cut wood and machine oil, loved knowing every customer by name, knowing exactly what old Jerry Patterson needed for his eternally leaking bathroom, or which drill bits the Kowalski brothers preferred for their construction business. The store was my life. I just assumed it would be my future too. Then in April 2019, Deanna came home. Just for a visit, she said at first. Stayed with Mom and Dad in their house on Elm Street, the same house we grew up in, but the visit stretched into weeks. Then she started showing up at the store, asking questions, lots of questions, about our profit margins, our customer base, our online presence, we barely had one, our vendor contracts. You know, Paige, she said one afternoon, leaning against the counter in her expensive jeans that probably cost more than our weekly register intake, this place could be so much more. You're sitting on a gold mine and you don't even realize it. I looked around at our dusty shelves, our ancient cash register, our handful of customers browsing for lawnmower parts and paint supplies. A gold mine, right? I'm serious. With the right marketing strategy, e-commerce platform, social media presence, you could triple your revenue in 2 years. This is a small-town hardware store, Dee, not some tech startup. She gave me this pitying look like I was a child who didn't understand how the real world worked. That's exactly the problem. You're thinking too small. Looking back, that should have been my first warning sign. Deanna didn't come home out of nostalgia or family obligation. She came home because she saw opportunity. And my sister never did anything that didn't benefit Deanna first. By June, she'd moved her stuff from Chicago into Mom and Dad's old guest room. The firm and I parted ways, she explained over dinner one night. Mutual decision. I wanted to explore some independent consulting opportunities. Translation: she got fired. I found that out later. By August, she was coming to the store every day. Dad started calling her his secret weapon. Mom beamed every time Deanna talked about modernization strategies and market expansion. They ate up their successful daughter coming home to save the family business from my small town. Incompetence. I tried to be supportive. I really did. When Deanna suggested we start an Instagram account, I took the photos. When she wanted to reorganize the tools section, I helped her rearrange displays. When she pushed for us to get a new point-of-sale system that cost $15,000, I swallowed my concerns and helped with the installation. But something felt off. The way she'd take phone calls outside, the way she'd quickly close her laptop when I walked into the back office, the way she started having private meetings with Mom and Dad, meetings I wasn't invited to. Family business succession planning, Dad said when I asked. Just boring legal stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Famous last words. September rolled into October. The leaves turned that brilliant Ohio gold, and Ashford prepared for its annual Harvest Festival. Garrett's Hardware always had a booth. We'd do demonstrations, sell seasonal items, give away branded merchandise. It was my favorite event of the year. Deanna wanted to revamp our whole approach. We need to make a statement, she insisted. Show people we're not their grandfather's hardware store anymore. We ended up with a booth that looked like an Apple store threw up on a lumberyard. Sleek tablets displaying our new digital catalog. A video loop of Deanna talking about our brand evolution. Minimalist signage that was nearly impossible to read. The old-timers who'd been our loyal customers for decades walked right past. But Deanna declared it a huge success because we got great engagement metrics from the few people who scanned our QR code. That was when I started feeling like a stranger in my own store. By the time Thanksgiving arrived, I was exhausted. Not physically, mentally. Every day felt like defending the business I'd built from my sister's constant improvements. Every suggestion I made got countered with, "That's not how modern retail works, Paige," or "You have to think bigger picture." Still, I was not prepared for what happened that Thanksgiving. Mom had gone all out. The dining room looked like a Pottery Barn catalog, autumn-themed everything. Her good china, cloth napkins, the works. Our Aunt Linda was there with her husband Rick, cousin Tyler home from college, and Dad's brother Uncle Paul who'd driven up from Cincinnati. We'd just finished the main course. Mom was about to bring out her famous apple pie when Deanna stood up, champagne glass in hand. "I want to make a toast," she announced. Everyone smiled, expecting something generic about gratitude or family. "This year has been transformative for me," Deanna began. "Coming home, reconnecting with my roots, rediscovering what really matters, and I'm so grateful to Mom and Dad for giving me this incredible opportunity." I felt my stomach tighten. As of January 1st, I'll be taking over as the sole owner and operator of Garrett's Hardware. The room went silent except for Uncle Paul's confused, "Wait, what?" I looked at my parents. Mom was beaming. Dad was nodding proudly. "We've been working on this for months," Dad said, addressing the table. "Deanna's got the education, the business expertise, the vision to take the store into the future. It's time for me and Carol to retire, and we couldn't be happier knowing it's in such capable hands." "Congratulations, honey," Aunt Linda gushed. Cousin Tyler raised his glass. "That's awesome, Deanna." I sat there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, feeling like I'd been punched in the throat. "Paige will stay on, of course," Deanna added, finally looking at me with what I can only describe as performative sympathy. "We'll need her institutional knowledge during the transition. Maybe as assistant manager?" Assistant manager. 23 years, and I'd been demoted to assistant manager in my own family's business. "Isn't this exciting?" Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. "You two will make such a great team." I excused myself to the bathroom and locked the door, stared at myself in the mirror, trying to process what just happened. My face was flushed, my hands shaking. Part of me wanted to march back out there and flip that perfectly set table. Part of me wanted to just leave, walk out, never come back. But mostly, I just felt numb. I heard Deanna's laugh echoing from the dining room, heard the champagne corks popping, heard my family celebrating her success. My success! She was claiming my success. I splashed cold water on my face, took a deep breath, and walked back out. Smiled, nodded, pretended everything was fine, because that's what you do in small-town Ohio families. You don't make scenes. You don't air grievances. You smile and swallow it down and deal with it later. But later that night, after I'd gone home to my small apartment above the bookstore on Maple Street, after I'd poured myself a very large glass of wine, after I'd ugly cried for a solid 20 minutes, I got angry, really angry. This was my store. Mine. I'd given up everything for it. Never got married because who had time for dating when you're running a business? Never pursued my own dreams because the store needed me. Never left Ashford because someone had to stay and keep things going. And Deanna, she'd swooped in for 6 months with her fancy degree and stolen everything. I spent that weekend in a fog of rage and betrayal. Didn't answer my phone when Mom called. Didn't show up for our traditional Black Friday store opening, claiming I had the flu. By Sunday night, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going down without a fight. Monday morning, I showed up at the store at my usual 6 a.m. Deanna didn't roll in until 10, carrying a Starbucks cup from the new location in the next town over because, God forbid, she drink coffee from the diner like the rest of us peasants. "Paige, you're feeling better?" she asked brightly. "Yeah, we need to talk." Her smile faltered. "Sure, my office?" Her office. It used to be Dad's office. Before that, my grandfather's. I followed her in and closed the door. "What's up?" She sat behind the desk like she owned it, which apparently she was about to. "When were you planning to tell me?" I asked. "About the ownership transfer?" She had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. "I thought Mom and Dad had talked to you about it." "They didn't." "Okay, well." She spread her hands in that placating gesture I'd come to hate. "The decision's been made. I know it's an adjustment, but—" "An adjustment? Deanna? I've been running this place for 15 years. You've been here for 6 months. 7 months, she corrected. And that's exactly the point, Paige. You've been running it the same way for 15 years. No growth, no innovation, barely breaking even most quarters. The business needs fresh perspective. The business was doing fine until fine isn't good enough anymore." Her voice sharpened. "We're competing with Home Depot 30 minutes away, Amazon delivering next day, Lowe's opening a location in Canton. Fine is how businesses die." I took a breath. "I get that. I do. But why does that mean you get to own it? Why not make us partners? Or at least talk to me before making this decision?" Deanna leaned back in the chair. My chair, really. "Because Mom and Dad knew you'd react like this. All emotional. Taking it personally. This is just business." "It's not just business. It's our family." "Exactly. And family looks out for each other. I'm looking out for this store's future. Your job is safe, Paige. You'll still get a paycheck. You just won't have to deal with all the stress of ownership." The condescension in her voice made my blood boil. But I kept my expression neutral. "Okay," I said quietly. "I understand." She looked surprised. "Really? Yeah, you're right. It's just business." I walked out before she could see the lie on my face. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I drove to my parents' house and let myself in with my key. They were at their Monday night bowling league, same schedule they'd had for 30 years. I had maybe 2 hours. I went straight to Dad's home office. Started going through files, looking for the paperwork about this ownership transfer. Found some stuff about estate planning, revised wills, business succession documents. Then I found Deanna's laptop bag. I shouldn't have looked, I know that. But I was desperate and furious, and I needed to understand what the hell was happening. Her laptop wasn't password protected, classic Deanna. All style over substance. I started digging through her files, her emails, What I found made my hands go cold. Emails between Deanna and a commercial real estate developer named Brian Hutchins, dated back to March, a full month before she came home for a visit. Preliminary assessment looks promising. Property is undervalued, prime location despite town's decline. Hardware store is just the anchor we can acquire adjacent properties. Rezone the whole block. Conservative estimate, 2.5 M development project. Another email from July. Parents are on board with ownership transfer. The sister's going to be a problem, but she has no legal claim. Once I have full control, we can move forward with the sale. Should have everything finalized by Q2 2020. I sat there, staring at the screen, the full picture finally becoming clear. Deanna hadn't come home to save the family business. She'd come home to sell it. Not just sell it, demolish it. Turn our historic building and the surrounding properties into some kind of development project. Probably condos or a strip mall or whatever soulless bullshit developers were building these days. She'd manipulated our parents, convinced them she was the savior who'd secure their retirement, when really she was planning to cash out and destroy everything our family had built. I took photos of every email with my phone, documented everything. Then I carefully closed the laptop and put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Drove home in a daze, my mind racing. The next few weeks were torture. I had to show up at the store every day, smile at Deanna, watch her make plans for a future she was planning to destroy. Meanwhile, I was making my own plans. First, I talked to a lawyer. Not anyone from Ashford. I drove to Canton and found an attorney who specialized in family business disputes. Showed her everything I'd found. This is fraud, she said, skimming through the email photos. She's misleading your parents about her intentions. The question is, can you prove they don't know about the development plans? They definitely don't know. My dad would never agree to selling the store. It's his legacy. Then we need to tell them before any ownership transfer is finalized. Second, I reached out to Brian Hutchins himself. Posed as a potential investor interested in Ashford development opportunities, asked for a meeting. He was a slick 40-something in an expensive suit, the kind of guy who saw small towns as profit margins instead of communities. We met at a Panera in Canton Neutral Territory. Ashford's ripe for redevelopment, he explained, spreading out architectural renderings on the table. The hardware store block is the keystone. Once we have that, we can acquire the adjacent building's bookstore, old pharmacy, that vintage clothing place. Whole block becomes mixed-use development, ground floor retail, apartments above. Young professionals are looking for affordable housing within driving distance of Cleveland, Columbus. This hits all the marks. And the current hardware store owner is on board? The daughter is. She'll have full ownership by January. Once that's settled, we move forward with the sale. Should close by spring. I looked at the renderings. Generic, soulless buildings that could be anywhere. Nothing that honored Ashford's history or character. Just another development that would price out locals and attract outsiders. What about the community response? I asked. Small towns can be resistant to change. He waved dismissively. The town's dying anyway. This is progress. People will adapt. I wanted to throw my coffee in his smug face. Instead, I smiled, thanked him for his time, and said I'd be in touch. Third step. I needed to tell my parents, but I needed to do it right. If I just showed up with accusations and printed emails, Deanna would spin it as jealousy, as me being vindictive about not getting the business. I needed them to see the truth for themselves. So I waited, watched, documented every suspicious conversation, every private phone call, every time Deanna met with someone about suppliers who turned out to be connected to Hutchins's development company. December came. The store was decorated for Christmas, my tradition, my designs, but now with Deanna's elevated aesthetic, which meant everything was silver and white instead of our usual red and green warmth. The ownership transfer was scheduled for January 3rd. I had maybe 2 weeks. On December 15th, my opportunity came. Deanna's laptop died. She mentioned it at the store. frustrated because she had a really important presentation the next day and needed to retrieve files. Use the computer in the office, I suggested. You can access your cloud storage, right? Yeah, but some of this stuff is only on my hard drive. She pulled out her phone. I'll call the repair place, see if they can rush it. Or, I said casually, I could try to recover the files tonight. I'm pretty decent with tech stuff. Might save you the rush fee. She looked at me suspiciously. Then her phone rang. Hutchins? Probably, and she walked away to take it. Fine, she said when she came back. But be careful with it. There's important work stuff on there. I took the dead laptop home that night, didn't even need to repair it, just removed the hard drive, accessed it through an external reader, and copied everything, every email, every document, every piece of evidence of her fraud. Then I compiled it into a presentation, a real presentation, not the sleek marketing bullshit Deanna specialized in, but a clear, damning timeline of lies and manipulation. December 20th was Mom and Dad's 40th anniversary. Family dinner, just the four of us. Deanna had suggested a fancy restaurant in Canton, but I'd convinced them to keep it simple dinner at their house, Mom's cooking, quality time together. Before we eat, I said after we'd all sat down, I wanted to show you something. An early anniversary present, kind of. I pulled out my laptop. Paige, we're about to eat, Dad protested. This is important. 5 minutes, please. Something in my tone made them pay attention. Even Deanna looked curious. I started the presentation. This is the story of how Garrett's hardware nearly became a parking lot. I showed them everything. The emails between Deanna and Hutchins. The development plans. The timeline that proved Deanna had orchestrated this entire scheme before even coming home. The financial projections showing she stood to make over $500,000 from the sale, while they'd get a fraction of that from their retirement buyout. The room was dead silent except for my voice narrating each piece of evidence. Mom's face went pale. Dad's went red. Deanna tried to interrupt multiple times. This is out of context. You don't understand business. This is insane. Sit down, Dad barked at her. The tone in his voice shut her up immediately. I'd never heard him sound like that. When I finished, I closed the laptop and looked at my parents. I'm sorry. I know this isn't how you wanted to spend your anniversary, but you needed to know before you signed anything. Mom was crying quietly. Dad just stared at Deanna. Is this true? He asked her. Were you planning to sell the store? Deanna's face cycled through several expressions: panic, anger, calculation. Then she settled on defiance. So what if I was? Dad, the store is dying. You said so yourself. I was going to get you a fair price. Set you up for retirement. By lying to us? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. By pretending you cared about the family legacy when you were just going to tear it down? The legacy is already dead. You're just too nostalgic to see it. That building is worth more as real estate than it'll ever make selling hammers to contractors who are buying from Home Depot anyway. That building is my father's legacy, Dad said quietly. Dangerously quiet. It's our family's name, and you were going to erase it for a paycheck. A big paycheck, Deanna shot back. Enough to actually give you a comfortable retirement instead of scraping by on whatever pittance you've saved. I was doing this for you. No, I said. You were doing this for you. You got fired from your fancy Chicago job, burned through your savings, and came crawling home looking for a score. Don't pretend this was altruistic. Her eyes flashed with real hatred then. At least I have ambition. At least I'm not some small-town loser who's too scared to want anything more than this pathetic life. Get out. Dad stood up. Get your things and get out of my house. Dad. Now, you're not welcome here. I'd never seen my father that angry. Deanna opened her mouth to argue, then saw his face and thought better of it. She grabbed her purse and walked out. The front door slammed. Then we heard her car start and peel out of the driveway. The three of us sat in silence for a long moment. I'm sorry, I finally said. I know this is awful. Don't apologize. Mom wiped her eyes. You saved us. You saved the store. Dad sat back down heavily. He looked older suddenly. Tired. I was a fool. I let her manipulate me because I wanted to believe. He shook his head. Thank you, Paige, for having the courage to show us the truth. We didn't eat much dinner that night. But we talked. Really talked. For the first time in months? They'd felt pressured by Deanna, they admitted. She'd made them feel like their way of doing business was obsolete. Embarrassing. She'd painted me as limited, stuck in the past, unable to see the bigger picture. But the bigger picture is family, Mom said. Community. Legacy. Not just profit margins. The store should be yours, Dad told me. It should have been yours all along. I'm sorry we didn't see that. I cried then. Big, ugly, relief tears. We spent the next few weeks working with lawyers to undo the ownership transfer documents. Turned out Deanna had rushed some of the paperwork, forged a few signatures, more evidence of fraud that would have bitten her eventually. I also reported everything to Brian Hutchins's company. They dropped the development plans immediately. Apparently, fraud and misrepresentation weren't the kinds of business practices they wanted associated with their brand. Deanna tried calling a few times, sent emails, even showed up at the store once in January, but I'd changed the locks. I need to talk to Mom and Dad, she demanded. They don't want to talk to you. Paige, please, can we just... You tried to destroy everything I love. You manipulated our parents. You lied to everyone. There's nothing to talk about. I made a mistake. No, you made a calculated plan that only fell apart because you got caught. Those are different things. She stood there on the sidewalk, looking smaller somehow. Then she left. Last I heard, she'd moved to Indianapolis, working for some marketing agency, probably plotting her next scheme. By February 2020, the ownership transfer was official to me this time. Mom and Dad set it up as a gradual buyout, letting them transition into retirement over the next few years while I took full control. The store is still there, still called Garrett's Hardware, still serving Ashford's 4,200 residents and everyone in the surrounding county. We did eventually modernize, got a real website, started doing online orders, improved our inventory system, but we did it my way, gradually, without destroying what made us special. I kept the old wooden floors, kept the antique tools display that Grandpa started, kept the personal service, the community bulletin board, the free coffee and cookies on Saturday mornings, because some things are worth more than profit margins. Some things, family, legacy, community, can't be measured in development deals and real estate valuations. And some people, no matter how charming their toast or how sophisticated their PowerPoint presentations, will never understand that. Deanna raised her glass that Thanksgiving and announced she was taking over the family business. What she didn't announce was her plan to destroy it. But I found out. And I stopped her. And now, every time I unlock those doors at 6 a.m., every time a customer tells me their grandfather shopped here, every time I smell that mix of cut wood and machine oil, I know I saved something that mattered. Not just a business, a legacy. And unlike my sister, I actually understand what that word means. If you've made it this far, you're probably thinking about your own family drama. We've all got stories, right? But here's the thing. Deanna's not unique. There are people like her everywhere, waiting to swoop in and take what you've built, what you've earned, what you've bled for. So if this story got you fired up, if you've got your own version of a Deanna in your life, hit that like button and let me know I'm not alone. Subscribe, because I've got more stories about people who thought they could get away with it. Spoiler, they didn't. Comment below with your worst family betrayal story, or just tell me I did the right thing, because some days I still wonder. And turn on notifications so you never miss when I post again. Where are you watching from? Drop your location below. I want to know this story reached you wherever you are.